For nearly 8 decades, the ocean kept its darkest secret buried deep beneath the waves. A submarine built for escape, whispered to have carried gold, secrets, and perhaps even Nazi leaders fleeing justice. When investigators finally found Hitler's lost U-boat after 79 years, what they uncovered sent chills through the team. Something inside that wreck didn't match any wartime record, and what they saw next left even the experts afraid to speak. The mystery of U-3523. In the spring of 1945, Europe was burning. Cities lay in ruins, the Allied forces were closing in from every side, and the once mighty German war machine was collapsing under its own weight. Hitler's Third Reich was crumbling. The command structure that once ruled with absolute power had fallen into chaos, and fear spread through every remaining stronghold. Yet, in the middle of this destruction, one part of the German military still inspired both hope and dread: the submarine fleet. By the end of World War II, Germany had poured immense effort into creating a new generation of submarines known as the Type 21 Electroboot. These were not ordinary U-boats. They were faster, quieter, and could stay submerged for far longer than any submarine before them. According to news reports, they were years ahead of their time, capable of changing naval warfare completely if introduced earlier. The Type 21 boats represented Germany's last desperate attempt to turn the tide of war, a secret weapon that could have threatened Allied supply lines across the Atlantic. Among these advanced submarines was U-3523. It was one of the most remarkable designs of its class, equipped with powerful batteries, a sleek hull that allowed near silent movement, and an extended range that made it ideal for long-distance missions. It was later reported only a few Type 21 submarines became operational before Germany's surrender, but U-3523 stood out for its mysterious final voyage. U-3523 was built by Friedrich Krupp Germania Werft, a major shipbuilding company located in Kiel, Germany. The keel was laid down on 7 October 1944 during the final desperate months of the war. It was launched on 14 January 1945 and commissioned shortly afterwards under the command of Captain Lieutenant Willy Müller. The submarine was part of a small group of cutting-edge vessels intended to turn the tide of the war in Germany's favor, though by then it was already too late. In the final weeks of the war, with Berlin under siege and Hitler hiding in his bunker, rumors began to spread through both German and Allied intelligence circles. Whispers claimed that high-ranking Nazi officials, perhaps even members of Hitler's inner circle, were planning to flee Europe. Media outlets noted that many of these stories involve submarines heading for South America, particularly Argentina, where Nazi sympathizers were believed to be waiting. Could U-3523 have been part of this escape plan? The last confirmed sighting of U-3523 was on May 6, 1945. According to Fox News, a British B-24 Liberator bomber spotted and attacked a submarine off the coast of Denmark. The aircraft dropped depth charges, and U-3523 reportedly sank with all 58 men on board. That was the official record. Yet, as time passed, questions arose. The coordinates of the attack did not match later sonar readings. Post-war intelligence reports were incomplete, and no wreckage was ever found. The sea had swallowed its secret, leaving behind only silence and theories. And that silence endured for more than 70 years. For decades, explorers and historians searched the seas for this vanished submarine. Now, let's tell you how they finally found it. The hunt over decades. In the late 1940s and 50s, Allied intelligence agencies launched several investigations to locate missing German submarines. According to naval records, dozens of U-boats were unaccounted for when Germany surrendered. Some were destroyed in combat, but others had vanished without a trace. British and American naval surveys combed the North Sea and the Atlantic, hoping to find wrecks that could confirm their fates. Occasionally, sonar sweeps detected shapes that looked like submarines resting on the seabed, but most turned out to be false alarms or unrelated wrecks. Classified documents released years later revealed that Allied intelligence had tracked mysterious signals and intercepted strange radio transmissions long after the war's end. Some logs even hinted that a few German submarines continued operating in secret weeks after Germany's official surrender. These cryptic clues only deepened the mystery, fueling rumors that some vessels had escaped toward South America. As the Cold War began, the story of the missing U-boats took a new turn. Journalists and researchers started linking these disappearances to another enduring myth, the idea that Adolf Hitler himself had escaped. Publications like Newsweek and others kept the legend alive, suggesting that Hitler or members of his inner circle had fled Germany through secret escape routes known as rat lines. Many of these supposed routes led to Argentina, a country that had accepted thousands of Nazi refugees after the war. According to these tales, Hitler did not die in Berlin, but instead traveled by submarine to Argentina, where he lived in the remote region of Patagonia under a false identity. Some versions of this story even claimed he died peacefully there in the 60s or 70s. Argentine newspapers and local witnesses occasionally reported seeing German colonies and men who resembled Nazi officers living quiet lives far from Europe. An even stranger version of the story suggested that U-3523, or submarines like it, had carried Nazi leaders and advanced technology to a secret base in Antarctica. This so-called Base 211 was said to hide flying saucers, experiments, and plans for a new world order, a myth that fascinated conspiracy theorists for decades. Others believed the missing submarines were not carrying people at all, but treasures. Gold, stolen art, and ancient relics were rumored to have been sealed in steel compartments and sent to distant waters before Germany's fall. Treasure hunters often claimed to have found wrecks that matched descriptions of these Nazi treasure submarines, though none were ever proven. One final theory came from Soviet sources. Some historians believe Stalin himself encouraged the idea that Hitler had escaped. Reports suggest that in 1945, Stalin told President Truman that Hitler was alive and hiding in either Argentina or Spain. Many experts now think this was part of a deliberate Soviet strategy to confuse the Allies and keep the world uncertain about the war's true ending. After years of dead ends, you would be surprised to know what precise clue led to U-3523's final detection and where exactly it lies, locating the wreck of U-3023. Countless expeditions had searched the seabed, guided by fragments of wartime records and half-forgotten naval maps. Then, during a routine underwater survey off the coast of Denmark, researchers detected something strange on their sonar screens. The reading showed an elongated, symmetrical shape buried beneath layers of sediment, a silhouette that matched the profile of a German submarine. The discovery took place about 10 nautical miles north of Skagen, Denmark, in the Skagerrak Strait. At a depth of around 130 yards, the sonar images revealed a vessel resting in eerie silence. The bow was deeply buried in the seabed, while the stern pointed slightly upward as if frozen in motion from its final descent. Marine archaeologists knew immediately that they had found something extraordinary. This find was not a matter of luck alone. It was the result of decades of technological progress and persistent underwater exploration. Since the 1990s, ocean researchers have used sonar, magnetometers, and side-scan imaging to locate and identify shipwrecks hidden beneath the sea. These technologies send sound waves that bounce off objects, creating detailed images of the sea floor. Early tests were often unreliable, but as equipment improved, sonar readings became clear enough to show even the contours of a submarine's hull. Similar breakthroughs in other wreck recoveries had already changed the way ocean archaeology worked. For example, the discovery of the U-869 submarine off the coast of New Jersey in the 1990s proved how sonar data, combined with historical research, could solve long-standing maritime mysteries. Each successful recovery helped scientists refine their methods, making it possible to search deeper and more accurately than ever before. However, exploring deep waters is never easy. The ocean floor hides its secrets behind immense pressure, limited visibility, and constantly shifting sediments. The cost of running deep-sea equipment can be enormous, and in the case of wartime wrecks, legal and ethical restrictions often prevent excavation. Many of these sites are considered war graves, and disturbing them is seen as disrespectful to those who perished. Over time, metal corrodes, hulls collapse, and the ocean reclaims its possessions, making every discovery a race against decay. One organization that helped lead this remarkable find was the Sea War Museum Jutland. Based in Denmark, the museum launched a project to scan and map hundreds of wartime shipwrecks scattered across the North Sea and Skagerrak region. Using advanced sonar systems, they conducted repeated sweeps, identifying anomalies and comparing each one to historical records. Among the more than 400 wrecks mapped, one stood out, the long-lost U-3523. After the initial sonar detection, experts carefully analyzed the data to confirm what they had found. They compared the hull's geometry, the structure of the conning tower, and the presence of distinctive turret deflectors to known features of the Type 1 submarine model. Every measurement fit perfectly. Further assessments ruled out the possibility that it was any other type of ship. The identification was complete. The ghost of U-3523 had finally been located. The submarine's condition told its own tragic story. The bow was buried deep under silt, while the stern remained exposed, showing signs of corrosion and partial collapse. Marine life had claimed the structure, covering it with layers of growth. Excavating the site would be risky, as the fragile metal could crumble at any disturbance. When the news broke, the first question everyone asked was simple: what was inside? No artifacts were immediately recovered, and researchers were cautious about entering the wreck. But based on discoveries from other U-boats, speculation quickly grew. Could sealed compartments hold documents, weapons, or even treasures meant to fund an escape? With the skeleton now laid bare in the depths, what hidden compartments, cargo, or secrets might lie locked inside waiting to be revealed? Let's find out. What investigators hoped to find versus what they did. From the very beginning, expectations were sky high. Some researchers believed the submarine might have carried high-ranking Nazi officials fleeing the collapsing Third Reich. Others speculated that the sub was loaded with gold, looted art, or even secret documents that detailed escape plans to South America. There were also theories that U-3523 was transporting advanced technology, blueprints, or coded messages meant for a new beginning after Germany's fall. Not everyone agreed with these romantic theories. Some naval historians suggested a simpler and more practical explanation. They argued that U-3523 might have simply been a tactical escape attempt, manned only by its crew, and loaded with fuel to flee from advancing Allied forces. In this version, there were no treasures or hidden passengers, only desperate sailors trying to survive the war's final days. Still, the mystery was too powerful to ignore. As the wreck rested deep under the sea, researchers faced enormous technical challenges trying to explore it. At a depth of around 130 yards, the water pressure alone made diving risky. The hull was partially buried in thick layers of sediment, sealing many of the submarine's internal chambers. Even the most skilled divers could only spend limited time near the wreck, and visibility was poor. Collapsed bulkheads and twisted metal pose further dangers. Any attempt to force entry could cause sections of the submarine to crumble, trapping or injuring divers. Modern exploration relied on remote-operated vehicles instead, but even these had difficulty maneuvering through the narrow and corroded passages. Another barrier was legal and ethical. Wartime wrecks like U-3523 are often considered war graves, since they contain the remains of the sailors who went down with them. Many nations strictly forbid disturbing such sites. The idea of breaking open the submarine's hull to look for treasure conflicted with the duty to respect those who had perished inside. Still, external clues offered valuable hints. The exposed stern showed signs of explosive damage, likely from the British bomber attack recorded in wartime documents. The breach suggested where the torpedo or bomb might have struck, but the buried bow remained untouched and perhaps more intact inside. Based on what has been found in other U-boat wrecks, experts believe there could still be preserved instruments, control panels, or storage compartments hidden within. Preliminary scans using sonar and remote cameras provided limited glimpses inside. The interior appeared filled with sediment and collapsed metal, though some areas showed hollow spaces and geometric shapes that could have been rooms or equipment sections. Investigators could not confirm whether there were any sealed compartments or objects still preserved inside. The big question remained: would they find evidence of Nazi gold or escape plans, or just an empty shell reclaimed by the sea? For many, the search itself was a shock, not because of what they found, but because of what they did not. The wreck was silent, lifeless, and hollow, a grim monument to the final collapse of a dark era. The findings and disappointments. When investigators finally confirmed the identity of U-3523, many hoped that its interior would hold extraordinary secrets. For years, stories of Nazi treasures, high-ranking escapees, and hidden documents had surrounded the submarine like a fog of myth. Yet when the evidence was examined and official reports were released, the truth turned out to be far more ordinary and in some ways far more tragic. There were no signs of secret cargo, no gold bars, no crates of stolen art, no mysterious documents sealed away for a future empire. Researchers also found no evidence of passengers beyond the regular submarine crew. The wreck appeared exactly what it seemed to be: a war machine destroyed in its final moments of battle. Public statements by the Seaware Museum Jutland and other experts confirmed that nothing resembling valuables or hidden compartments had been detected. This finding, simple but clear, challenged decades of speculation and adventure stories. The lack of treasure or escape evidence strongly supported a more realistic explanation. U-3523 was likely destroyed during a mission or retreat, not on a secret journey carrying Nazi leaders to safety. Historical records already mentioned that the submarine had been attacked by a British B-24 Liberator on May 6, 1945, just 2 days before Germany's surrender. The position of the wreck matched this report perfectly. This confirmation made it almost impossible to believe that the submarine had ever been part of a grand escape plan. The findings also dealt a blow to one of the most persistent conspiracy theories in history: the claim that Adolf Hitler had escaped Germany and fled by submarine to South America. For years, believers pointed to U-3523 as possible proof, but the wreck's condition told a different story. The submarine had never made it out of European waters. The idea of a secret journey carrying Hitler or his associates collapsed along with the submarine's hull. Still, the absence of evidence did not necessarily mean that all clues were gone. The ocean has its own way of erasing history. After nearly 8 decades underwater, much of the metal had corroded beyond recognition. The constant movement of currents and marine life had dissolved softer materials like paper, fabric, and wood. Sediment had poured into open spaces, sealing them shut. Entire compartments may have been crushed, leaving no visible sign of what once existed. Other U-boat recoveries offered similar lessons. When explorers examined the wreck of U-869 off the coast of New Jersey, they too found that decades underwater had left little intact. Machinery was frozen in rust, instruments had disintegrated, and any human traces had long vanished. The romantic notion of frozen time inside a sunken submarine was replaced by the harsh truth: the sea does not preserve secrets, it consumes them. If the interior proved disappointing, imagine what new technology, fresh dives or yet unexplored hidden compartments could still reveal. It might change everything. Implications and repercussions. The discovery of U-3523 did more than solve a long-standing naval mystery. It reshaped how historians and the public view one of World War II's most persistent legends. For decades, rumors had painted the submarine as a possible escape vessel for high-ranking Nazis, perhaps even Adolf Hitler himself. With its location confirmed and its secrets largely revealed, the myth began to collapse under the weight of evidence. What once seemed like a thrilling conspiracy turned into a sober lesson in how history, over time, becomes tangled with imagination. Besides this, the implications and repercussions of Hitler's era and World War II reshaped the world in ways that still echo today. The conflict, which raged from 1939 to 1945, was not only a battle between nations, but also a struggle over humanity's moral direction. Adolf Hitler's rise to power in Germany brought with it an ideology of racial superiority, dictatorship, and aggression that plunged the world into darkness and destruction. Politically, the war marked the end of European dominance and the birth of a new world order. Germany, once powerful under Hitler's regime, was left in ruins and divided into East and West Germany, symbolizing the deep divide between democracy and communism. This division laid the foundation for the Cold War, as the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as rival superpowers competing for global influence. The failure of appeasement and the horrors of totalitarianism led many nations to rethink international cooperation, giving rise to the United Nations in 1925, an institution meant to prevent another global catastrophe. Economically, Europe was devastated. Entire cities lay in rubble, industries were destroyed, and millions faced hunger and displacement. However, this destruction also paved the way for massive reconstruction efforts. The Marshall Plan, introduced by the United States, helped rebuild Western Europe and stabilize its economies, while Eastern Europe fell under Soviet control, leading to decades of economic stagnation under communism. The post-war period also saw the birth of new economic systems and alliances, eventually giving rise to the European Union as countries sought unity over division. Socially and morally, the war exposed the depths of human cruelty. The Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews and millions of others were systematically murdered, forced the world to confront the horrors of hatred and genocide. It led to a global movement for human rights, eventually resulting in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Women also entered the workforce in large numbers during the war, sparking long-term changes in gender roles and social structures. The colonial world was equally transformed. As European powers weakened, independence movements gained momentum across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. The war had shown that even the strongest empires could fall, inspiring a wave of decolonization that reshaped the global map. In short, the era of Hitler and World War II left behind deep scars, but it also forced humanity to rebuild, rethink, and reform. The lessons of that time remain clear. When hatred and power go unchecked, the price is measured in millions of lives. What do you think really happened inside those cold, silent depths of Hitler's submarine? Could there still be more hidden beneath the sea waiting to be uncovered? Share your thoughts in the comments below.